welcome you all today to see the Holocaust speaker that we have for you, Mr. Ruben and Regina Sayer. Ruben will talk a little bit about his experience in the concentration camps, and Regina would like to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the things that she taught about in history classes that she taught at Towson University, and she's going to talk a little bit about the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party and so forth. So you get a little bit of background before we launch into Ruben's story. For any of you out there that knows of someone who may not be here today due to a test or some illness or something like that, we are taping it. So if there's anyone out there that would like to see this later on, you'll just need to approach Mrs. Roberts or I, and we'll get you that tape and you can take that home to that person, or that person can come and see us. So without further ado, I give it all to Ruben and Regina.
Adolf Hitler was born in the late 1800s. He was born in Austria. He was not a German. His father was a very strict disciplinarian, and he wanted Adolf to be a civil servant like himself, and Adolf wanted to be an artist. His father died in the early 1900s, and it freed Hitler somewhat because he just absolutely hated his father. His mother died of breast cancer, and Adolf blamed the Jewish doctor for her pain. He collected a small amount of money all the time because he was an orphan. Adolf Hitler never ever worked at any time in his life a salary. He lived off others, and that's the way he was. After his mother died, he went to Munich, which is in Austria, and he became indoctrinated in anti-Semitism. He just the sight of a Jew just turned him off, and he hated him. He was a very hateful person. Actually, he was mentally ill. He joined some organizations and became very indoctrinated in anti-Semitism, and he applied for art school, and he was turned down. He wasn't good enough, and that really bothered him. World War I started in 1914, and Adolf Hitler joined the German army, crossed the border into Germany, and he served in the German army in all his glory. He loved every minute of it. And he only became a corporal. Can you imagine his generals in World War II and his admirals in World War II taking orders from a corporal who was a little crazy? When after World War I, he was gassed, and he was wounded, and he earned 2 Iron Crosses, and he loved the army. So he stayed in the army when the war ended. And he blamed the German government, the Weimar Republic, for giving up. He wanted them to keep on fighting, even though they were losing. And he and others blamed them for everything. The other people he blamed for everything were the Jews. It was all their fault. He stayed in the army for a while, and then he stayed in Germany, and he met people like himself that later became the Nazi Party. It was the German Workers' Party to start with. And he was a very good speaker. And when he spoke, he was like a young, hypnotic speaker. And people would listen to him and be in awe of him. Because he told the German people, Germany would rise again, and it would rise for 1,000 years. It would be a great nation. And who wouldn't listen to him? That sounded great. The economy was terrible. It was during the Depression years. It was the 1920s and 1930s. and people were suffering all over the world, including in Germany. The German mark was so worthless that you could wheel tons of it in a wheelbarrow and it couldn't even buy a bag of sugar. He organized the Nazi Party, and in 1933 he became the Chancellor. Now, this is amazing. How did he become the Chancellor? He wasn't even a German. He was very smart about certain things. And he became a citizen of Germany, and in that respect, he could become the Chancellor. At the same time that he became the Chancellor, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt became the President of the United States. Can you imagine two completely different people? He gave the German people what they wanted. He organized the Army, the Navy, built ships, built planes, the Air Force. According to the Versailles Treaty, he wasn't supposed to do that, but he did it anyway. If someone didn't have a pair of pants, he gave him a uniform to wear, gave him a gun, and he made something of him. And he organized a huge military. In 1938, there was something called the Night of the Broken Glass, Kristallnacht, where the Germans destroyed synagogues, broke the windows of German business people, and put people in concentration camps. And they blamed the Jews for it and made them pay for the damages. This was leading up to the war itself. The Prime Minister of England, his name was Chamberlain. He came to Munich and he signed a pact with Hitler. Hitler promised him that there would be no war as long as he let Germany go into Czechoslovakia and into the Sudetenland. That's all he wanted, no more. Well, Chamberlain went home with his umbrella, stood out in the rain, and he said, "Peace in our time. We won't have any war." September the 1st, 1939, the German army invaded Poland. France and England had signed a pact with Poland. If they were invaded, they would come into the war with them. They would fight alongside all of them. The Germans signed their own pact. And so that Japan and Italy came into the war with Germany. Now, Italy was kind of funny. They're very great lovers, but they're a terrible army. And they had a leader, and his name was Mussolini. And the Japanese were a different breed. They were really hard. And, of course, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese came into the war. But let me take you back to Poland. Reuben was a little boy. He was 13 years old when the Germans invaded Poland. And he's going to tell you his story of what it was like to be a little boy and find yourself in a war, and in the end, barely surviving. By the way, we've been married 57 years, almost 58 years. And we have 3 grown children and 7 grandchildren. So we know each other a long time. Yes, Reuben.
She promised me we were going to keep our marriage a secret, but I guess now it's the open. The best way for evil to flourish is for good people to say nothing. Can you hear me back there? Yeah. Okay. During the 1930s and 1940s, the world stood idly by and allowed Hitler to flourish. Allowed Hitler to do whatever he wanted. That's why I am a Holocaust survivor. We know that 6 million Jews were slaughtered, not killed. I was with him, I watched him, I buried him, I know. I've seen him suffer. I suffered with him. The difference between me and them that I'm here today and they're not. But what is 6 million? If we were to take every man, woman and child in the state of Maryland, we would not come up with 6 million. We would have to include the state of Delaware. Just imagine the numbers. Give you another example, you probably studied, or some of you might have, the parents might remember, that on 9/11, 3,000 people were killed in airplane crashes. During the Holocaust, for 5.5 years, average every single day, 3,000 people. But they are just numbers, as I said before. What we're speaking of is people. We're speaking about parents, children, brothers and sisters, family, friends, people like you and I. On that September the 1st, Friday, September the 1st, 1939, my parents said there's a war. We must leave our home. We did not have any newspaper, radio, or anything to really know what's going on. We took a few of the things that we could carry because we did not have any mode of transportation, and we left our homes. We marched all day, and Friday at sunset, in Jewish religion, the Sabbath begins. We started in a field, we had a little food with us, we said our prayers, and we slept out all night. Saturday morning, we were ready to continue, and the Germans called out to us. They told us we're free, we can go home, we're liberated. We turned around and marched towards our home. Before we came to our town, everyone was stopped, Jews and Christians alike. They immediately separated the Jews from the Christians. While the Christians were allowed to go home, we were detained until Sunday early afternoon. Then we too were told we can go home. Outside of the village, the road divided. Those that went to the right, which my family were among them, came home safely. Those that went to the left, 272 people were shot, killed to death. Their crime they committed, they were born of the Jewish faith. Monday morning, the Holocaust really began. We were told to come to our synagogue. We had one synagogue in town. They made us carry out the prayer books and the scrolls, which the Bible is written in, the Old Testament. They poured gasoline and they burned them. I assume they did it to scare us, to frighten us, to dehumanize us. And they pretty well succeeded. We were also told that from now on we had to come to the town square every single morning and read the new laws, specifically designed for Jews. Not what we can do, but what we cannot do. For example, if I walked on a sidewalk and a German approached me, I had to go into the gutter. I wasn't worthy walking on the same side, the same ground as they did. And there were so many others. From that day, my life changed completely. My schools ended. Actually, my life came to a standstill. I had to grow up, I had to become a man. I could not be a child. That went on until sometimes late spring, early summer of 1940. We were told to leave our homes and move into an area called the ghetto. We hear the word ghetto being used a lot here. wherever you have a certain ethnic group, color, religion, nationality, or whatever, living in one area, it's called a ghetto. But in this country, you can come and go as you please, you can do what you want, you can stay in, you can stay out, you do anything you want. Not the ghetto that I'm speaking of. We were told to move into an area that chose the biggest slum area they could find, and each family was assigned a so-called a new apartment. I come a family of 8. We were given one room, probably no bigger than the room you have at home. How do you live, 8 people in one room? Again, because we did not have any mode of transportation, we could only take a few of the things that we could carry, as you can see here in the first poster. That meant we couldn't take any furniture. Took a little clothes, a little bedding, a few pots and pans, the little food we had, and moved into the new apartment. In that room we had one bed. We had a table and 2 benches. We had a stove, but we did not have any firewood or coal. But fortunately there was a lumberyard was in the ghetto. We went there and got some sawdust. Brought it home, packed it in solidly, and laid it and smoked it for 24 hours. That's how we did our cooking and our eating. The little clothes we had, we kept on the floor. We had no closets or anything. My mother and my younger sister slept in one bed. The rest of us had the bed down over a stable. In the summertime in Poland, the nights are not as hot and humid as they are here. But in the wintertime it gets very cold. Usually it's below 0. Because we didn't have any, lots of clothes, warm clothes. We literally slept in our clothes. We wore it for 24 hours a day. But that was not the biggest problem we had. In a slum area as it is here, there's no industry. And if there's no industry, there are no jobs. We had to find a way how to provide a family. My younger brother, older brother and I, we became the so-called breadwinners. Summertime what we did, we smuggled out of the ghetto at night, crawled in our arms and legs and our bellies onto a field, and dug up with our hands whatever we could literally lay our hands on and bring that home. On the way home, I was hoping that I'd pass a fruit tree, find a stone or a branch, and throw it up and knock down 1 or 2 fruits and bring that home. Once we brought that home, my mother had to ration it. Because if the weather was bad, it was raining, we could not crawl on our bellies, arms and legs in mud. That meant nothing was coming in. But that's the summertime. What about the other 3 seasons? Fall, winter, and spring, when nothing is growing. We had to find a way how to make a little money, to buy the ration coupons that they gave us. What we did, we smuggled out at night, even though we knew that most Poles were very anti-Semitic. They didn't like Jews. I lived that the day was practically the day I was born. What we did, we smuggled out at night and knocked on a door and hoping that they would open it up and come out and try to sell anything of value we had, but make a quick transaction. If we would take our time, we were afraid they might call the Germans and would cost us our life. Any wrong move would cost us our lives. But that too was a problem. Snow starts coming down the winter, and it doesn't around November, and doesn't leave until sometimes in March. And we did not have any plowed roads or sidewalks like we have here. We had dirt roads and fields. If you walk on snow, you leave footprints. And then all the Germans had to do to see where we came from and where we went. And that would have been very, very dangerous for us. We'd risk our lives. If you look at the next poster, you see how it looked like in the ghetto, how crowded it was, because there wasn't enough room in the rooms that they gave it that they assigned for us. So we spent most of our time outside, and there really wasn't anything to do with the ghetto. There were no jobs, so we just stood around. The purpose of the ghetto was to have all Jews concentrated in one area. And the Germans were ready to take us away, for their main purpose was, their main goal was to exterminate every Jew in Europe. They had us all in one corner, so-called, one small area. All they had to do is come there and pick us out, like you pick out fish from a pond. They had a list of every man, woman, and child. They knew everything they wanted to know about us. And as I said, all they had to do is come there and we were so-called ready for it. I don't have many dates, but this is one date I would never forget. It was April the 12th, 1942. I was 16 years old, small for my age. My parents said that I can stay home, I'm safe. I didn't have to leave, I didn't have to go in hiding. My father, older brother, and older sister went into hiding. There weren't many places you could hide, but you could always find a hole to crawl in. And I stayed at home. The middle of the night we heard a truck pulling up and the Germans were always very loud. My mother immediately went to the door, knowing if she doesn't open it up, they're going to come in and break it, and we had no way of replacing it. No sooner did she get there, there was a knock on the door. She opened it up and they came in like a tank, they knocked her down. And they yelled out the names of my father and older brother. Where are they? My mother said, I don't know. She probably did not know. I'd never be sure of that. They kept on screaming, yelling, repeating the same question, and my mother gave me the same answer. They looked at me and told me to stand up. I stood up. They came over and grabbed me by my arm and started pulling me out. My mother is your mother, grabbed me by the others. But she and I were no match for them. I was taken away from me never to see or knowing what happened to my parents and my 3 younger siblings that stayed at home. A younger brother and 2 younger sisters. I do not remember what the Germans looked like, I did not look at them. But never will I forget the faces, the expression of my mother and my 3 younger siblings. The tears, the pain they must have felt, seeing one family member being taken away and not knowing what would happen to him. I keep on wondering what happened when my father came home. What did my mother say to him? That one of his sons was taken away. I will never know that, because none of them survived. Don't even know where, how, and I was taken away and I was to a camp. When I got there, they took several things from me. They took my family, they took my freedom, they took my clothes. We had to leave all our clothes behind. They even took my name and gave me a number. I became 25685 for the next 3 years. And then we gave us a new outfit consisting of a pair of pants and a jacket, a pair of shoes, a blanket to serve as a sheet and a cover, and I brought it back to fill up with straw to become my mattress. Then we were assigned into a barrack. When I speak of a barrack, I'm not speaking the kind of barracks as we know them here. Made out of cinder blocks, heating and air conditioning, indoor plumbing, windows, doors, all the amenities as we know it. If you ever go to the museum, you see some pictures of them. These were huts made out of boards, had 4 walls, a roof and a floor, no insulation or anything. It had bunk beds and 2 long tables with benches on each side and 2 buckets. Because there was no indoor plumbing at night, it was curfew, we were not allowed to go out. I filled up the straw and I put it up on my bunk and I climbed up and I put my face into it. And I lied there all night crying. Crying as each one of us here would do. What will happen to me? Will I ever get out of here? Will I ever see my family? What if I need advice? All the things that each one of us would think of. But the next morning, the Germans made sure I didn't have time to cry. I didn't even have time to think. It became a routine. They woke us up at 6 o'clock. 6:30, they gave us our ration, a cup of substitute coffee. No bread, no cereal, no nothing. At 7 o'clock, we had to be ready, lined up in the rows of 5. We marched the whole hour to work. First time we got there, they gave each one of us a shovel, and they said if we lose that shovel, we'd have to dig dirt with our hands. Kind of work we did, we literally moved mountains into valleys, leveled the ground so the Germans could build ammunition factories. We were not allowed to build ammunition factories, I assume, for sabotage or whatever they had in mind. We worked from 8 till 12 non-stop, rain or shine, snow or sleet. From 12 to 12:30 we had a half an hour so-called rest period. If the weather was nice and it was pretty warm, I would just lie down on the dirt, stretch out my arms, put my head on it, either fall asleep for a few minutes, or just lie there and rest. We had to conserve every bit of energy we could. Then we worked from 12:30 to 6 non-stop. 6 o'clock we were counted and marched back to camp for a whole hour. Can you imagine if you had to be outside on a hot summer day? Temperature is 90, 95, 100 degrees. Sun beating down on you, you're out there working or whatever we had to work, or whatever you would be doing, and don't have a drop of water, what that would feel like. On the winter time, your parents would never allow you to leave home without. We did not have. We did not have any heavy coats, sweaters, gloves, scarves, hats, decent shoes. We're out there, snow, blizzard, cold, or whatever, and you don't even have a hot cup of coffee, what that would feel like. We had no one to complain to. We got back to camp around 7 and we had a half an hour time to wash up. In the middle of the camp there was one guy that housed on one side about a dozen showers, on the other side boards, long boards, cut out with holes that we used for toilets. We had a half an hour time to use each facility. We were around 1,200 men, give or take 50, depending how many died and how quickly they replenished. The first few men that had a chance to go in, take a shower, had a little hot water, the rest cold water. In the summertime, hot or cold, any kind of water was very refreshing. But what about on a cold day, very cold day, or even a day like today? Even if I had the opportunity to go in and get a little hot water, I would not do it. Because the thing that we take so much for granted, all of us, we did not have. We did not have a towel to dry ourselves off. We did not have any toilet paper, tissues, toothpaste, all the things that we find in our bedrooms. What that meant, we walked around for weeks and months sometimes without putting a drop of oil on our bodies. And when you don't bathe, lice for them, and they're very, very hard to get rid of. When I was liberated, it took me 7 months before I could see my original color of my skin. I had 3 years worth of dirt from the camps and 2 years from the ghetto. 7:30 they gave us our ration for the day. They gave us a small portion of bread and a cup of soup made out of rutabagas. The whole time that I was in the camp, I never not only tasted one, but I never saw one, like a fruit, a vegetable, piece of cake, the things that we take so much of them for granted. After we gave us our ration, it was curfew, we were not allowed to go out. Sometimes in 1943, late spring, early summer, we were transferred from one camp to the other. First camp we were guarded by the Wehrmacht, the military. They weren't so bad, but they had some helpers. And these were Poles, Hungarians, Romanians, different nationalities. The German gave them a uniform, they gave them a whip and a stick. But above all, they gave them authority. They could do to us anything they wanted. And they were very, very anti-Semitic. They were very brutal. But in the next camp, if you ever go to the museum, you see them. They had a new guard, the SS, Hitler's elite. It's been so many years and I still don't understand how any person could be so cruel, so mean, so vicious to another human being. They had no mercy. The punishments were also much more severe. The two most often used punishments were, you guys might want to try later, pick up a chair by the front legs, because the rear legs has the back, it makes it heavier. Crouch down on your toes, don't put your heels down, and see how long you're going to last. If by accident I fell back and my heels touched the ground, they would turn over the centimeter and start all over again for 20 minutes. The other punishment was specially designed as like where they would lock our feet in and our necks in and use the whip. Sometimes 25 lashes, sometimes 50, depending on the crimes we committed. For example, if I walked by a guard, a German guard, and I did not turn my head, looking at him, he would just take my number down and then I would be called to receive my punishment. When we had to put our pants down, they literally cut through the flesh. When they finished, all we could do was find a rag, usually a dead body's clothes, and clean ourselves off, and another one to wipe our blood off, but make sure that we go to work the next day. They would not give us any sick days. If I could not go to work, I wasn't worthy of taking up the little space or getting the little bit of food, even though we earned it so many times over. By the end of 1944, we were told that we are going to evacuate the camp. You probably heard the death marches. The reason why they were the death marches was hundreds of thousands of people died during those death marches. We had to learn how to help us survive. We did not have a Band-Aid, we didn't have an aspirin, we had nothing. So most of the things are too graphic or too personal, and I'm not going to describe it in detail. But I had learned one thing, that if you take paper, put it between your clothes, keeps the wind out. Therefore, it keeps your body temperature in. I took a cement paper bag and put it between my clothes to stay a little warmer. He gave us, each one of us, a new pair of shoes made with wooden soles. Some of you ladies probably know, you probably wore one, something like that. It's hard to walk on normal time, but we marched on dirt roads and fields covered with snow. If you walk on wooden soles, the snow sticks to it. We were all weak, some weaker than others, and if you don't kick off the snow, you get taller. You can twist an ankle or break a leg. And the weak ones, when they kicked it off, fell down. They would shoot him, and the truck followed us and picked up bodies like to pick up treasure on the highway. We marched all day, and as it was getting dark, they told us we could stop and rest. The problem was we were out in a field, covered with snow, over our heads, with the sky. I knew if I sit down, the snow is going to melt, and I'm going to have a big problem with clothes outside. I tried to hold out as a few others did, but after a while you do what you have to. We marched all 3 days and 3 nights. Nights we were sleeping out in the field and marched during the day. After 3 days, they finally marched us over to a railroad track, and a train pulled up with these cars here, as you can see it on here. They opened up the gates and they pushed in about 100 or so into that car. Again, if you go to the museum, you've been there, you've seen that car. It looks nice and neat, clean. But anyone that was in those cars will tell you it was hell on earth. I cannot describe it, the condition. It's beyond description. When he pushed us in, there wasn't any room to sit down. Had it been the summertime, he would have suffocated, because there was very little air coming in. Fortunately, it was the winter time and some air seeped through. There wasn't any room to sit down. But after a few hours, a little room became available because the men died, and we put them in the center of the car, piled them up. And I saw a little room available near me, and as tired as I was, as much as I wanted to sit down, I couldn't get myself to sit down, or even as dirty as I felt. What happened, the bucket overran, and it spread all over the floor. The smell in that car, the condition, it's just unimaginable. The best way I can describe the condition, after 3 nights and 3 days, after they opened up the gates and they let us out of 100 or so that went in, 10 of us were out alive. We got to a camp called Bergen-Belsen. Bergen-Belsen, unlike other camps, did not have any crematoriums or gas shelters. They didn't need them. All they had to do was put us in there, and nature would take care of it. I thought when I get there, at least there's going to be a little straw I can lie down. But when we got there, there was an empty shed. The floors were wet because there were holes in the roof. We sat down between each other's legs to keep the wind out. And like a domino effect, we all fell back and fell asleep. The next morning, it became a routine for the remainder of my incarceration. The last 3-4 months. They woke us up between 4 and 4:30. Made us go outside, line up in rows of 5, carry out all the dead bodies, pile them up in 5s, and wait for them to come around between 2 and 2:30 to count us. Turned on the water between 10 and 10:30, but we were not allowed to get out of line. That meant we had nothing to drink. I literally prayed for rain or snow. If it would rain, I would just put the palms of my hands out and try to catch a few drops of rain. If it snowed, I would just take it off my clothes or get down the ground, and a lot of times pick it up as sand or dirt and spit it out, just to get some fluid in my body. After they counted us, they gave us our ration for the day. It was a cup of soup. Cup of soup. The whole time I was in Bergen-Belsen, I never saw a piece of bread or anything else besides that soup. How any one of us survived again, to me, that's got to be the greatest miracle. After we ate, we had a job to do. The camp was literally littered with bodies, as you see on the poster right here, first poster on my left. We literally walked over bodies. Our job was to remove every one of them and throw them into huge graves, as you can see, the one in the middle. We would not stop until everyone was removed. After we finished our job, we just stood around, primarily outside, because inside there was the smell both in and out, but outside it wasn't so bad. They brought in people every single day, both men and women. One day a group of women were coming in, and I didn't pay attention to it because it was a routine, daily event, so-called. And I heard someone yelling out my name, Rubin. I turned around and I saw a familiar face that I had not seen for 3 years. It was my older sister. I could not go out to her because we were caged in. She had to keep on moving. Now I knew that she was there, but I did not know, is she dead or is she alive? Every time I dragged a body, these graves were near a women's section. I saw a woman lying face down. I would turn her over, hoping I would recognize her. Fortunately, I did not. She did survive. Finally, the day of the so-called liberation came. I say so-called liberation, again, it's been 65 years since I was liberated. And I'm here. What about all of those tens of thousands of people, both men and women, who were finally liberated and are not with us anymore? They were thrown into these graves. Among those that was almost liberated 2 weeks before liberation, a young lady that you probably all know, heard about her, she died in Bergen-Belsen. Her name is Anne Frank. I keep on wondering what would have Anne Frank achieved, what would she have accomplished, what would she have contributed had she been alive? What if Dr. Sabin would not have escaped Nazi Germany? How many of us here would have polio today? What if the founder of Intel would not have been saved by a Christian family? Would have been an Intel? We know those three names. How about the hundreds of thousands, millions that we don't know? Among them are my parents, my younger brother, and two younger sisters. What would they have accomplished? What would they have contributed? Keep on asking myself why. Why was the world so silent and didn't care about all the people, men, women, and children who were murdered? When I was liberated, I was as close to dying as anyone could be. If you look at the last poster over my left, and you put my face on it, you can see me. I was so weak that I could not walk anymore. If the war would have lasted another day or two, I would not be standing here. I saw when the English came in, I saw some men going to the warehouse figured there must be something that I might want that would be of interest to me. I could not walk, so I dragged myself over with the last bit of energy in my body. I got there and I saw some bread. It literally couldn't make me that happy. That couldn't look as good as that bread did. I pulled over 4 small loaves of bread, and somebody saw me having them. He took 2 from me, and I put the other 2 in my coat. Lice and all. I never ate that bread. I went into a coma. The way people found each other, they walked through the living and the dead to see whether they find somebody they can recognize and notify a loved one. Somebody saw me, and she went and she notified my sister. For almost 60 years, my sister wouldn't tell me how she found me. She cannot talk about it, she still doesn't talk about it. But she came down here to Ward 1, and I said to her, I'm going to speak in the school, would you come with me and listen to me? She said to me, Ruben, I don't talk about it. I said, I do. I'm not asking you, all I want you to do is come and listen to hear what I have to say. Maybe you can add, subtract, and she agreed. And I got there after I finished. The first question was, what was it like after liberation? I turned to her and I said, Cassie, I know, I promise you. But I don't know, you were there, why don't you tell him? And she agreed. She was told by a friend from our town, and when she came there, she found me naked. That was easy for me to figure out. Because what we did, and I have done it a number of times, if I saw a dead man, his clothes were cleaner or fewer holes than mine, and where he was going, it didn't matter. I took his clothes off and put it on me, and just threw the other one, my old one, away. Evidently, somebody thought I was dead, took my clothes off and let me lie there as a dead person. She went out and she found some rags, and she dipped it in water, and she put it on my face to make me a little comfortable. The first thing she did, she took off her underwear to put it on me to give me back some decency, some humanity. She got some girls to carry me over to the women's section, and she did everything she could to save me. I feel she gave me my second birth, my second life. My first was my mother, and she was the second one person. If it hadn't been for her, again, I would not be standing here. For the next 7 months, I was a vegetable. I could not move. I could not feed myself. What the English did, they gave us a can of bacon, a can of sweet condensed milk. I had eaten for 3 years in the camps and 2 years in the ghetto. What I needed, what we all needed, was a little baby, a couple spoons of baby food, and nurses along. Instead, they gave us that food, and what it did, it gave us diarrhea, and it flushed through our body. We were dehydrated, and tens of thousands of people were in beds and died. What does the Holocaust teach us? It teaches us, especially in this country, how lucky, how fortunate we all are, living here and having what we have. The opportunities are unlimited. A lot of times we feel so down because we have to do something, or we cannot get something we want for whatever reason, whether your parents can't afford it, or they feel you don't need it. We have so much to be grateful for. You have opportunities to go to school, to get your education. I wished I had 2% of what you have. Because in this country, everybody can make a life for themselves. And I'm living proof that you can be successful. For some it'll be harder than others. For some it'll take longer than others. But we can all do it. I did it. But after the war, I had no place to go. I'm telling you that story not because I want you to know what happened to me, to realize how fortunate you are and how lucky you are that you can get, no matter what you want to do, you can achieve it. Because I didn't have anywhere to go, I was on welfare and I was stateless, homeless, you name it. I was left. Finally, an opportunity came along that I could come to this country, but I had to have a sponsor. And I didn't have any family here. I came here as a youngster because my brother made me 3 years younger, so I could get some medical attention. So being 22, he was 19 with the authorities. So I came here as a minor. Came here with a friend of mine. They put us up, the Associated Jewish Charities, put us up in a hotel for 2 weeks. Then they found a room, my friend called it the cockroach room. We had one bed, we had a ice box, we bought every day a block of ice, 50 cents worth. We had a hot plate, a table with 2 chairs, and the little clothes we kept on the floor. We stayed on the 4th floor, hot like hell. It was in May of 1945. We had to wait in line to use the bathroom. There were 4 families there. We started hitting the so-called the pavement. I went to look for a job. Everywhere I went, I was turned down because I didn't have education. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything here. Everywhere I went, I was turned down because I couldn't understand them and they couldn't understand me. Finally, one firm offered me a job. The problem was I was on welfare, and welfare is a cancer. Once you get on it, unless you cure it, you live with it until it kills you. I was offered a job for $23, take-home pay. But I was getting $37 in welfare. And I said, why would I take a job for 23 when I'm getting 37? And my social worker said to me, you got to start sometimes, the sooner the better. And I took it. The first day, I cleaned the bathroom and I swept the floor. It was up to me to get where I am today. Because once you are on welfare, and when I see people today homeless, staying out as a cop, I keep on thinking to myself, why don't they do what I did? Because we rented that room and we slept in one bed, 2 young men, for over a year. But what we did have was a home. We had an address. You could write to me, you could visit me. We had somewhere to go. It was not easy for me, but I made it. Been married now for 57 years. We have 3 children, all professionals. We have 7 grandchildren. And they're going to be professionals. Some are still in school, some are already working. And if I can do it, imagine the opportunities you have. How far you can go. Your parents and your teacher are opening the door for you. What you have to do, you have to go through them. And I know you're going to make it. But we have here in this country much more than just opportunities. We have something that's called freedom. Freedom is something that was fought for us by both men and women, and many of them gave their lives so we can have that freedom. And freedom is something that we must protect. Must protect with everything we have. Because once you lose it, It is so very hard to get it, but thank you very much.